Hello, Star Citizens. I'm Link Static MDK, and with me today I have Paper Thin, who will probably be the majority of your hosts for the time that we are doing Flight Deck. Welcome to our show, Flight Deck. We're going to be talking about Star Citizen information, video games that we enjoy aside from Star Citizen, movies, TV, books, comics, anime, Star Citizen events, pretty much a good variety of everything that we enjoy as nerds. So I'll get going just a little bit about myself. Link Static MDK. I joined Star Citizen about a year ago, I want to say. I have a couple of ships. I currently own the Reclaimer, Freelancer Dur, and the Hornet. So for the most part, I'm one of those annoying Hornet pilots that you meet, Commander. I kick it over to Paper Thin to talk a little bit about himself.
Hey guys, I'm Paper Thin. I have been with Star Citizen for a little over a year. I initially pledged with 325A, have since gone down the rabbit hole, and I have a Constellation, a Super Hornet, a Jean Scout, and an Aurora just for kicks. But yeah, really excited about this game and happy to be here.
Yeah, I am pretty jealous of that John Scout. You're gonna have to let me try it out sometime,
Oh,
for sure.
absolutely.
That it just looks cool, like from the
Y-
concept and all that. It just
You know,
looks
I
cool.
Yeah, I bought it before they even had concept art for it. Like just the description alone, I'm like, I
Mm.
want this ship.
Well, and the thing is, that's all subject to change all the time too. So it might be a completely different ship by the time you finally get to fly it and try it out too.
That could be. Yeah, I did like the initial designs though, so I hope they kind of stick close to that.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I'm just glad I got it with LTI as well. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and like just a little bit of background for anybody listening. Paper Thin and I have been friends for years, and he's the one that introduced me to Star Citizen. Like forever ago, I'd played Wing Commander and Privateer and all those games, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the guy who's did Wing Commander and Privateer is coming out with a new game," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And he showed me a little bit of the in-game hangar stuff back when the hangars were completely different, and let's just say my paychecks have been going to Star Citizen little by little since then.
yeah, it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
Not really. No,
No, no.
not at all.
Yeah. I'm still gonna keep doing that, sorry. All
I
right.
know.
So beginning of the show we're gonna be talking a little bit about Star Citizen, little news that's come out, a little bit of our impressions of various topics. One of the things I know we wanted to talk about was flight controls.
Yeah.
Anybody who visits the forums a lot, you are probably aware of this little topic, not talked about at all, of
No.
mouse and keyboard versus joystick and HOTAS setup, and there's been one or two threads, I think, one to maybe 1,000, all
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about that.
It's
Um,
it's the underground of Star Citizen.
oh
Like,
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think when we were watching the little show they did in LA not too long ago, we mentioned, wow, it's amazing all these Star Citizens getting together and not complaining about mouse and keyboard versus joystick. It's like, oh wow,
I was hoping someone would have a sign in the audience, like,
HOTAS for life.
yeah, something like that.
Oh, I would have died laughing if I had seen something like that. That would have been great.
Yeah, like K plus MD, please nerf or something.
Right, yeah. Well, so
But
one of the things that came out during that, he talked a little bit about it, about them wanting to improve the flight controls, and then with that, give some sort of like auto gimbling to the HOTAS setup, which I think is what we initially had a bit of back in point nine, was it?
yeah, or no, we're on point nine, right?
We're on point nine.
So yeah, so I think it was
Okay,
like whatever was before this. God,
whatever
I hate
bef
keeping track of
whatever
version
before the
numbers.
major update that allowed for multiplay and all of that
Yes.
for private matches and
Yeah.
etc. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and yeah, they definitely made mouse and keyboard really strong because of the gimbals.
Well, like I was noticing a major difference, especially since I fly a Hornet and all my stuff is gimbaled. I just throw lasers on that, fly around with the mouse, and my targeting's off the charts ridiculous, and it's so much easier to get through stuff like Vandal Swarm. but it's
Yep.
still next to impossible to race with the mouse and keyboard, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I cannot fly in the races when I use mouse and keyboard at all. I have to switch to an Xbox controller or a joystick. I don't know what it is. I just can't handle it.
Well, and like the racing track, like once you start to learn that track, I think it's a lot easier to like time your turns and stuff with a joystick than it is with a mouse, because mouse, every little movement of the mouse is just going to mess up your angle completely, whereas joystick, you don't have to worry about that as much.
Right. I agree with you. I don't know what it is. It's so I don't want to say sensitive, but it's hard because you move the gimbals first
Mhm.
and then you move the ship. So it's kind of it's a delayed reaction almost. Whereas
Yeah.
the joystick it's tied directly to your maneuvering thrusters, so
Yeah.
you just do it.
That's
So
like I think that's about the perfect way to explain it because of the way it's all merged together, it just makes it harder to fly in general.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I prefer the joystick overall, for the simple fact that it feels more like a flight sim and it's way more fun that way. Whereas
yeah,
mouse and keyboard is kind of like, oh, point here, click, point here, click. It's nowhere near as
yeah.
engaging.
I totally agree. You know, the whole like thing that excites me about games like this is like using the joystick and feeling like you're actually, you know, flying a ship. I mean, it's a big reason why I invested in an Oculus Rift because I want to have kind of that immersive experience that Chris Roberts is really going for.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like keyboard and mouse should be an afterthought. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I mean,
they sh-
the other side of that argument is, well, most people don't have a joystick, most people don't have an Oculus Rift, most
right.
people are just going to have keyboard and mouse. So if you don't make that solid gameplay on its own, you're not going to be hitting as broad of an audience. So
That's very true. That's a
I
good
don't know.
point.
I come down on both sides of it. I just feel bored when I play with a mouse, and it's way more exciting to play with a joystick, but I don't want to be so overpowered that it's not fun in that respect, where anybody who's
Right.
got a mouse I go up against, it's an easy win. That's no fun either. So,
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, you know, and then they've talked about it in the last, 10 for the chairman, that they will be fixing it
mhm.
and they will be addressing it. So they're responding to it. I have hope that they'll get it right. I mean, so
Well,
far, every time they've promised something, they, for the most part, have delivered.
well, and it's not like the community is going to let them get away with some terrible solution either. They're already jumping all over them before the fixes come out. If it comes out and it's still bad, they're going to hear about it.
Right. Well, you know, I've already invested in my Pitchfork company, so yeah, I'm ready
Yeah,
just in case.
Pitchfork, lots of.
It's it's my fallback
I,
plan in
I would
case
love to
it
see
goes
like
bad.
memes of Chris Roberts as like a Frankenstein's monster, like the Star Citizen community running around with pitchforks and fire. That would be amazing.
Oh man,
Oh, that would be
you got
great.
dudes like hanging out the back of a Connie, like
Mhm.
with pitchforks, like chasing him.
Oh man, if I was good at Photoshop, I would totally make that right now.
Oh yeah.
Um, all right, so that kind of segues into the latest ship that's kind of come out, which I don't have one. You have one. I'm super
Yep.
jealous of that.
Yep.
The 325A.
Yep. So
So yeah.
I brought it out today for the first time. I haven't had a lot of time to putz around with it like I would like. It reminds me a fair amount of the 300i. It feels a little faster. It maneuvers about the same, and the guns that come on it though are really hard to use. They don't have a high rate of fire,
Hmm.
so you have to be really accurate. And when I was just testing it out in Vandal Swarm, so it's really hard because the Vandals are they're pretty cagey. You know, they
Hmm.
don't like to just fly in straight lines and do kind of the jousting thing that you'll see sometimes in like PvP
Right.
multiplayer right now, where players will just kind of slingshot by each other. You know, uh,
Or hit each other dead on. Yeah.
yeah, or do that. That happens a lot too.
Yeah.
Um, but so it was really hard to do the Vandal Swarm with the default weapons. I think it's a mass driver and I don't know. I don't think it's two neutron guns that come on it,
Well,
but I
then
could be I
I
could be wrong.
I have no idea. Like the neutron guns in general, I am not a fan of. They
They're
just don't
bad.
do it for me. I don't like them at all. Like I
You know, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it's like the Bulldog repeaters and the other repeaters. Those tend to be my favorite guns overall, just because I'm better at managing heat than I am ammo.
Right.
Because if I get an ammo gun, I just, oh darn, I'm out. It's wave two. How could you be out of ammo? I held the trigger down. I'm sorry.
I didn't get any heat warnings, so I just kept firing.
You still get heat warnings, but you know they're few and far between, so
Right.
it's all good.
Yeah, and the biggest problem I have with the neutron guns, like for some reason I liked them before point .9.
Mhm.
I thought they weren't that bad, but with the new targeting system, it's near impossible to get them to hit because the guns with low rates of fire I have a really tough time getting to hit in the newest patch with the newest targeting system, I should
Right,
say.
even though they're more bang for your buck, if you don't hit,
Right.
what's the point? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I'm with you. I use the repeaters, and I do personally use some of the ballistic weapons because I'm not that trigger happy,
Mhm.
but I do really like the bulldogs.
Well, I
They're
think
really good.
once armor and stuff starts coming out too, like they're talking, the ballistic weapons are going to be like the go-to. You have to have one once people
Right,
start armoring up. I mean, I doubt your repeaters are going to be getting through armor as easily as they do shields.
right. I mean, I don't feel like you're gonna be able to get away with just using bulldogs or M3s or any
Right.
of that stuff.
I don't like the
But
M3. The rate of fire is not high enough, and you overheat. Just
yeah,
it's not a fun gun to me.
I don't like it much either. I tried using like all M3s one time in my Hornet, and I just kept overheating, and it wasn't even fun.
It's like the old Mech Warrior days where you load up like an Atlas with 6 medium lasers, you shoot once, and then
Right.
you're overheating. Yeah.
Right, exactly. You get a Warhawk and you're like, all
Uh,
right, I'm gonna put 6 PBCs on this because I can. You fire once and your mech like shuts down. It's like,
yeah, but
well,
if you hit, it's amazing.
yeah, it's hilarious.
Oh
But
God.
oh man, yeah, I
Well,
missed that game.
the other cool ship aside from the 328 5A that they came out with this week was the Cutlass, and I know a
Mm,
friend of ours, Imberfer, who's in our org, also has picked up a Cutlass, and he got the blue, which I think is the police one with the cells and all that stuff.
okay, so yeah, he got the blue. Okay,
Those are
I was
cool
wondering.
looking ships, I gotta say.
I
And
like all three of them. Yeah.
like the commercial they had that they came out with too, pretty badass, Top Gun-esque with like the weird tango music in the back. It was
Right.
it was a good commercial. I'd say that's one of their better like attitude style commercials, but it didn't feel like a car commercial like all the other ones felt like that they came out
Yes.
with.
Yes. I like that. That's a good way to put it. You're right. Like the earlier commercials did feel exactly like car commercials. I never really like realized I couldn't put words to what I was feeling when I was watching them because I'm like, yeah, I really like this, but
Mm,
something just feels kind of bland,
right.
and it's like, yeah, it's super cool and oh, it looks amazing, but I
Comes
think
with
that's good.
stone go seating. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You
6 cup holders
fix
in my
fit the
Cutlass
family
bag.
in for early vacation to Disneyland or Space Disneyland, whatever you want to call it.
Space Disneyland.
Oh, there you go. That's an idea. Feel
Yeah,
free to implement Space Disneyland, Robert Space Industries, and
yeah.
have
I think you should
have
post it on the
double Space
forums.
Mountain. There you go, double
Yeah,
Space Mountain.
yes.
It's not just Space Mountain,
Nice.
but Space
It's
Mountain in space.
Space Mountain squared.
That would be
But
awesome.
just
Uh,
post that on the
mhm.
suggestion forum. I'm sure it'll get a lot of popularity.
Oh, I'm
But
sure. Yeah, that won't be downvoted or anything.
oh, yeah, I really like the whole concept behind the red one too. It's kind of like
The hospital.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think, and I read a little bit more about, and I don't know if you saw this, what they're planning on doing with like hospital stuff.
Hmm.
So, like, let's say you're a bounty hunter, right? And you are trying to catch a bounty on somebody, but you hurt them really bad. Well, to get more money from the bounty, you got to bring them alive, right?
Right.
So you need to have like a med kit with you, or like another ship that has like a medical bay on it to keep that person alive, so you can turn them in for the bounty.
Mm.
And
Well,
so like it adds a role to the medical ship that I hadn't thought of, and that I think is really cool.
so like the Cutlass is kind of like your ambulance of the medical, and then I think they're coming out
Yeah,
with like a larger medical ship too that was recently with like the latest pledge amount that's coming out
right.
too. So from what I had heard, that medical ship is going to have like a hangar that can fit a Cutlass in it, so you can fly around and then like have your Cutlass ambulance go out and pick up people that are EVA, bring them back, heal them up, send them back out to fight. which
Oh, that's super
sounds,
cool.
yeah, that sounds amazing, especially considering, you're going to have a real valuable role then for people that want to go support instead of straight up dogfighter or straight up battleship commander or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's it, and that's, really impressive that they're really reaching out to all these roles and really fleshing them out and thinking them out and having good ideas. I'm really impressed by that. I have to say. These are ideas that I never would have thought of.
Well, and it's like when you see hospital ships in most games, it's like you press a button and then there's this little green beam that shoots out and all of a sudden you're healed. It
Yeah.
it doesn't have that full real world mechanic of, oh, we actually have to go and get the guy and bring him inside and treat
Right.
him.
Yeah.
What?
And
That's
it's not like these little green pluses that like bounce up off of it and just magically
it's
make it
like,
better.
yeah, and then over time you get a smile on your face and the cuts disappear from your face and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely excited about the Cutlass. Another ship I'm really excited about,
Hmm.
obviously, is the Redeemer.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I'll let you talk about that since
My my
that's your
nerdgasm
baby.
ship every time I see it. I'm like, oh, Redeemer. You know what I want? A Redeemer. I could have a burger and fries and a Redeemer.
I'll take three
Like,
Redeemers.
I would say the thing that sold me on the Redeemer. I wasn't so impressed with the black. I thought it looked cool, but as soon as I saw a Redeemer in like that white with the blue lights and all that stuff, I was like, I'm gonna own one. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna own one. That's just, that's the way it is. And like, that's not even the style of ship I was envisioning myself flying around the galaxy in. Like a gunship, it's got its place, but it doesn't really fit my play style. I'm more of like the freelancer type player, or I'll be in my
Right,
reclaimer flying around, stuff like that, but I won't be
right,
like, oh, I'll be in the fancy state of the art gunship killing people. No, but it looks too cool to not own one. I mean, the
right.
wings open up, you've got all this, like, you've got the double layer, you've got the back ramp, you've got the thing that opens up that people can drop down out of. I mean, I want one.
Yeah,
That's the short version. I want one. And like the fire arcs from the top turret, the bottom turret, and then the cockpit turret, just that looks so cool.
it's like an ideal like small squad ship. You got
Exactly.
like six
Hmm.
to ten people or whatever. I can't remember how many they say it's going to hold total for sure. I'm sure it's subject to change anyway. But it's like the ideal like it's just you and your friends, and you just want to fly around and just have a good time and do a couple military ops.
Right.
Boom, this is the perfect ship for it, and it has tons of flexibility. And
Well,
just I totally agree with everything you said.
and like the thing that I compare it to in my head is it's a Pelican from Halo. I mean, that's essentially
Yeah,
what it is. It's a drop ship that you load up with troops, flies into a combat zone, drops the troops off. I mean, that's exactly the role it's meant to fill, at least to me. And like, I was hoping it would come out with all the cutlasses because I remember like about a month ago, they were talking about, oh, we've got these ships coming out with the pipeline, the Cutlass and the Redeemer, and everyone's like, yay, Redeemer, yay, Cutlass. And the Cutlass has now come out. Um, and I think the Redeemer, they said in development wise, was about a month behind the Cutlass. So hopefully this time in November, we're going to be seeing the Cutlass come out and just, everybody freaking out and spending tons of money or turning in their money, their ships for money to get it. We'll see what
right.
happens.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, they've really started to pick up the pace. I mean, for a while, yeah, they had a lot of missed deadlines and delays and stuff, but that's
Mhm.
that's part of the business. That's the nature of the business. And now they're starting to hire a ton more people. Like, what did I see that they have like 380 employees total now or something like that?
Well, considering they started with like seven, I mean, that's a
Right.
huge growth over a couple of years for any company in terms of that much of an employee growth.
Right. And I mean, I'll be patient no matter what. Like they can miss deadline left and right, and I have total faith that they will redeem themselves when they do finally release the content. So
Well,
I think it's totally fine.
I think what helps this game a lot too is that we have a playable game right now with Arena Commander.
Right.
I mean, some games back in the day, this is as much content as you would have ever gotten. You know, you would
Right.
have a couple of combat maps, you'd have a couple of racing maps, you'd have a couple of like co-op maps, stuff like that. And we've already got that to try out with several different ship types to try out. I mean, that
Right.
that right there is a full-fledged game to me almost. So,
Right. I mean, single player content aside, I mean, there is some single player content, obviously, with the Vandal Swarm and that kind of thing.
mhm,
But like that stuff aside, I mean, you've almost got a game that's somewhat comparable to like X-Wing Alliance or something like that in terms of like the sandbox stuff
right.
that you can do with it. I mean, they're getting really close to that. There's no capital ships or anything like that yet, but in terms of like fighter on fighter combat, which was kind of the bread and butter of the X-Wing series games, and we're pretty much there.
Mhm.
So
Well, and once the multi-crew ship combat comes out, you're going to be looking at something beyond what most flight sims have ever gone to, which is the multi-crewed ships. I mean, you've never
yeah,
really had a good experience with multi-crew ships in
no,
this
no,
style
you
of
haven't.
game.
Not exactly. Not in a multiplayer game. Like I've had a couple missions in like certain games
Mhm.
where like yeah, it's like one mission where you and a couple other people can crew a ship and a couple people be in turrets and
Right.
you know and you're on like a kind of like a track story path,
Hmm.
that you can't really deviate from. So yeah, those are fun, but you're right. You're absolutely right. This is uncharted territory.
Yeah.
So it should be pretty incredible.
Yeah. And then what was that other thing you were telling me about that we were talk about? I think it was the Admirer's Manual or something along those lines.
Oh yeah. So it's called the Big Star Citizen Admirer's Manual, and this just came out, I believe, this morning. This is a guy. I'd have to look up his ID. I don't have it off the top of my head. But I'll make sure that we put it in the YouTube description and a link to this guide. So this is this huge guide that this guy put together. He really clearly has a lot of spare time on his hands, but at the same time,
Who
it's
doesn't?
great for us, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But and he just basically goes through and tries to answer like every question you could possibly have about Star Citizen. Like it answers a lot of what RSI is trying to do with the game, and all the stats on the ships, and it has like the guns and just everything you could want to know about Star Citizen. Highly recommend it for new and veteran players alike. It's a really great manual, and he put a lot of time into it. It's massive. So
Well,
yeah, we'll link it in the description.
the problem with that is every time they change something, he's gonna have to go back and update it too.
Yeah, this
Uh,
guy, he's dedicated. I'll give him that. It's
oh man,
pretty interesting.
it'd
So
it'd be simpler for him to just get hired by Robert Space
right,
Industries and then put it out that way. Just be
yeah,
their go-to encyclopedia guy.
right, absolutely. I mean, and it would probably be beneficial for them to have something like that. I mean,
Oh,
I'd appreciate it.
I bet they've got some sort of in-house version that they pass around. There usually is for that type of development.
Right.
Um, like this is how all the ship's weapons go. This is how all the ships go. That type of thing.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I learned some stuff reading it. Like, I didn't really understand, for example, how like the different like classes of weapons worked,
Hmm.
and so he does a pretty good job of explaining that, and so that was kind of cool.
Well,
Now
they've
I kind of have a better grasp.
when you're in your hangar and you bring up your ships and you're loading in the weapons and stuff like that, they've got some minor descriptions on the weapons. Like
Right.
these are good for attacking hull. These are good for attacking shields, but it doesn't really go that in depth, and it doesn't give you like the range that it's good out to. It doesn't give you the fire rate until you overheat, that type of thing. So
Yeah,
I hope
and
he.
that's something.
Uh,
Yeah, I'd like to touch on real quick is just how much I do not care for the current interface to swap out weapons and parts on your ship. How
really,
much it absolutely drives me nuts.
that's funny. I've never heard you talk about this before.
Yeah, I've never complained about it ever.
Oh
So
yeah.
it,
I'm not a fan. I don't loathe it, and loathe is the word I'm going to use as much as you do, but um I got to they got to do something to make it a little bit better for sure.
right,
But, it looks cool.
it does. And it is kind of fun. It kind of feels kind of Minority Report esque, where you're like,
Mhm.
sliding things around and like moving things around. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's really like frustrating to use, and there's like no instructions anywhere in the game. So like a lot of new players get really frustrated with it. But
Well,
again, pre-alpha, so
I know when they're coming out with those inventories and character sheets essentially and all that stuff is they're going to have that
Oh,
PDA device or whatever that goes on your arm. I wonder if that's going to be then what that turns into. So like it's all
Right.
done by that instead of having to go up to this table and switch out like that. You just tap your ARM PDA and it brings up the menu, and then you're not,
Yeah.
hopefully it's a better interface. I'm just guessing here. I have no idea what they're planning to do. I just think that would be a
No,
lot cooler.
I think that's a good guess. I would assume that's what they're going to shoot for, something like that. I mean, I suggested on the forums that they have a web interface that you can access, but I didn't really gain too much traction. I got a few people who thought it was a good idea, some others who were like, it breaks from immersion, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't really care.
I don't care. I just want it to work good. Dang
I
it.
know,
Yeah.
I know. I just want it to be simple.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully they'll come up with some sort of like keyboard and shortcut approach to it too. So like if you hit
Yeah.
T, it goes to whatever your engine manifold or that type of
Right.
thing. So like it gets to be easier than clicking with the mouse that doesn't always work.
Right. And I also hope they add, and I'm assuming they will, the ability to group your weapons outside of, combat, because right
Mhm.
now it's a chore to group your weapons. And sometimes it just doesn't work.
Well, and hopefully you can
Just-
save loadouts, etc. too, so that like,
Yep.
oh, now I've got my repeater set, I've got my bulldogs with my neutron gun set, or however it's gonna,
Right,
all
right.
go
Because you could
together.
be like, all right, I got my anti, fast fighter set, my
Hmm.
anti heavy fighter set, my anti capital ship set, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which I totally know we would both have, because
Oh God.
you're gonna have those situations where you need a specific outfit, especially if you know you're going into that situation where maybe you're attacking an Idris or something, or maybe you're
Right.
attacking a pirate base, or however they're gonna have it work.
Right. I cannot wait for the attack and defend the Idris, but that's we'll save that for another day. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's a
way
whole other video on itself
right.
about all that.
We
Yeah,
could probably do like 2 videos on that alone where we
it
just talk about
Attack
it.
the Idris Part 1.
Right. Right.
Well, I think, yeah. Oh man. Well, have you been speaking of like other game modes and stuff, any cool games you've been checking out aside from Star Citizen?
Yeah, so one I've been playing by myself. It's an indie game that just got released called Steam Marines. It's on Steam. It's a roguelike tactical um, top-down kind of thing, similar to something like Dungeons of Dreadmore, if people have played that, or it's kind of in the same vein as a game like NetHack. It has all the roguelike elements where it's procedurally generated, and it's different every time. So I like that kind of stuff. And you command a squad of 4 Marines, and you're trying to get through all the decks of this ship. To I haven't beat it, so I don't exactly know what my goals are, but it's pretty fun. It's challenging. It's very challenging. Even on easy, it's not easy. Like one mistake and your whole crew is just dead. But I've been really enjoying that. How about you? What have you been playing?
Oh God, I play too much stuff all the time, and you know that. I bounce around games like they're going out of style. Recently I picked up Baldur's Gate 2. It's
Hmm.
that old D&D game. It's on Steam, the enhanced edition, and I've
Yeah.
been playing that like it's going out of style. I gotta say, if I didn't know D&D from back in the day playing it, I probably would be completely lost, like as to what everything does. Like you really need kind of a background knowledge of, if not D&D, then role-playing games in general. Otherwise, you're
Right.
you're just gonna get lost trying to do anything. Also picked up Injustice: Gods Among Us. That's the DC fighting game. So you've got like
Oh.
uh, Batman, Superman, the Joker, all these other characters that essentially you can fight back and forth. Played through the single
So
player on that. It was
yeah, what kind of fighting game is that? Is that like a
oh, it's
2D like Street Fighter kind of thing, or is it?
exactly, yeah. It's a 2D Street
Okay.
Fighter. You have super moves that you can use, some counter elements, some blocking. I, it's not like as fun as some of the 3D fighters I've played. Like it's definitely it's more reminiscent of the old Street Fighter, I'd say. It's still fun. I mean,
Hmm.
I love me fighting games, but it's no,
Right.
like I don't feel it's as high of a competitive level as say the old Marvel versus Capcom style, or
Right.
that type of game. It's
Well,
still
it's
fun to
it's
play because you get
yeah, it's
Batman and Superman and all those people.
right. It's hard to argue that there are too many games that are as competitive as like Marvel versus Capcom 2 was. That
Yeah.
game was crazy. And I played the heck out of that game.
Yeah.
Loved it. So I would actually like to try that. I'll have to. Is DC? How much does DC Fighters cost? You know?
Injustice Gods Among Us, that one, I have no idea. I think I
Okay.
picked it up when it was on sale, so I got it
Mm,
for relatively cheap, which
mm,
is the nice part about Steam is they have sales.
yeah.
I think it's been out for a while too, so it's probably gone down in cost from when it first came out.
Sure.
Um,
I'll check it out. Put it on my wish list.
yeah. Well, and then we've both been playing Magicka, just for
Yeah.
the ridiculousness of Magicka. Like,
Yeah.
I when I first heard about that game, it was like, oh, that's the style of game that I know I could have a really lot of fun in, but it could also be really boring depending on how it was done.
Right.
So I think it's more fun the more people you have, just because of the craziness that happens from multiple people casting multiple types of spells all at the same time.
It gets pretty insane. I mean, you team kill so much in that
Oh,
game. It's just
and
ridiculous.
sometimes it's even not on purpose. It's like, oh, but I killed the bad guy. Yeah, but you blew up your entire team. But I
Worth
killed
it.
the bad guy. It was a really cool looking spell.
Yeah, we should stream some of that game. It's a lot
Oh,
of fun to play actually, and it's really complicated. Like I couldn't believe how complicated it
well,
is.
and you got to memorize all the different spell types, and it's like, oh, and if you do this combination slightly off, all of a sudden it's a completely different spell, or it just doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the I'm very interested to try out the versus people mode because I think that could come down to who's the better at like countering and doing a new type of spell.
Right. Yeah, I actually would like to try that after playing some more of it and getting a little more comfortable with, casting higher levels, or I shouldn't say higher level, more advanced spells because there is no levels in that game.
Right. Well, that's the thing I like about games like that in general, and about Star Citizen is it's not level based, so it's not I have higher
Yes.
numbers, I win. It's oh wow, you're more skilled than me, and you just completely wrecked my face. Okay, you deserve that win. I can't even say anything. You deserved it,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. I'm exactly the same way. I played Counter Strike, Halo, games like that where it was all skill based, and I've always gravitated more towards though. Yeah, I played, World of Warcraft and some other leveling type games, but
Uh,
skill matters in those too.
yeah,
Especially World
but
of
that's
Warcraft,
such a
like later on.
grind. Oh,
It
it's
is.
such a grind. Like
It is.
for a little background, I also played World of Warcraft, and I'm never going back. I was a raid leader during Wrath of the Lich King for like 25-man raids, and like it's like herding cats. It really is. It's a terrible experience because you spend all day, saying up for stuff, and then when you finally get to like the higher tier content, like a raid, then it's just herding cats, unless you have a really good group, which unfortunately I
Right.
never had a good group. I had way
And
more fun in the
yeah.
10-man versions though, because you could get a really solid group. It's pretty
Oh
easily.
yeah, I love doing like 5-man, dungeons like with
Mhm.
me and a couple friends. It was so fun, and you knew what you were doing, and you know everybody kind of was on task. So, but it's funny you talk about herding cats. Like when I was a Planet Side 2 squad leader, like that's exactly how I felt, and it was just unbelievable. Just like you'd be like, "All right, guys, here's our objective. Here's what we're doing. Let's do it." And like three people just go run off and do something completely different, and you're like, "Really? Okay, that's fine. Have fun. You're dying, and the rest of us are gonna try and take this objective. Good luck."
Mhm.
But
Well, and
yeah,
that's one thing I worry about with large organizations in Star Citizen
yeah,
is you really need a solid command structure and a solid group. Like you're never going to have a perfect group. Just it's the way it works. But if you have a solid core group, like, you've got your leadership is pretty solid, they know what they're doing and they give you like competent commands and make good decisions. It might not always be the best decision, you might lose some of the time, but as long as like everybody's cohesive with what they're doing, it usually works out a lot better.
yeah. You're exactly right. I mean, it's gonna be really cool, I think, to see how some of the organizations that aren't necessarily the largest in Star Citizen are going to be the best because they're the best run. They have the smartest leaders
Mhm.
that really know how to direct their ships and their troops well, and can really take advantage of what I think is going to be a really flexible and interesting game. You're going to have a lot of tactical and strategic options.
Well, and if you have 25 people that are solid and work well together, even if they're not the most skilled, it's going to be better than 100 people that, even though they might be higher skilled, if they all do their own thing and it doesn't necessarily work out.
Right, exactly. So I think I'm really excited to see how that all starts playing out, and I think we'll get early glimpses of that in especially in the Attack the Idris mode.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, with Idris too. Now we keep mentioning the Idris,
right.
there was a status update.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah, it sounds like that might be coming to hangars soon. What's up with that?
Yeah, so yeah, supposedly they're in kind of the final stages of designing and kind of putting the finishing touches on their Idris concept. So there's a good chance it's coming out, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the next month or two, maybe before the end of the year,
It'd be cool
that
if
we
it
get
was
it.
like a Christmas release, and all of a sudden, you just have all those videos on YouTube of people
Yeah.
walking around their Idris and like
Oh,
hundreds of thousands of views of people going, ah.
I know. I'm just gonna be sitting there, just kind of my jaw agape, a little bit of drool coming down the side of my mouth.
So that's
Oh.
what $1,000 looks like.
Yeah, I don't have
Oh,
that kind of money to throw at the game, but I wish I
well,
did.
I mean, you could just forego eating for a couple of weeks, and you'd have
Yeah,
that kind of money. It would be
I mean,
fine. Yeah,
I could stand to lose a few pounds anyway, you know.
yeah. There you go. I could look like a zombie and really gaunt. Yeah, it's all good as long as I have
Yeah,
an Idris. Who cares?
right. Hopefully, I don't get fired while I'm like sleeping at work, like
Oh well, there's
babbling.
the sacrifices you make for Star Citizen are worth it, Clint.
Yes, 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 very much so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Uh,
my God. Well, other than games, I do know of a couple other things that were pretty cool that I was thinking about earlier. A couple of animes I've been watching.
right.
Yeah, anime, I know, cliche, I'm that guy.
Yeah, we both
We
are.
both are, yeah. Um, Most recently, I've been watching this anime called Black Butler, which is about a butler who's a demon.
Okay.
I'm only 2 episodes in, so I'm not gonna like judge it, but it's definitely one of those weird animes where it's like the main character is super powerful and does everything super well, and like it's just these weird situations which would never happen in real life, and like
Right.
yeah. But it's not even the weirdest anime I've probably seen this year. It's a solid shonen style, combat style anime.
Yeah, I watched one earlier this year, and I really regret watching it, but it was called Black Bullet, and it was
Oh yeah.
about yeah, it was about like these like dudes who are, they've got really cool weapons and stuff, and they're fighting these like, I don't know if they're aliens or demons, or I can't even remember. I paid so little attention to it when I was watching it, that like have conquered most of the earth, but certain large cities have been surrounded by these objects that block these alien things out. And these human guys that have like really good weapons, they have like a little girl that's with them, right?
Yeah.
That is like super powered. She's like they're like infused with these demons or aliens or whatever, so they can fight them really well. And oh my god, 12 episodes, and I don't know why I watched it all. I hated myself at the end of it, and I just oh
I
god.
I also watched that one. I didn't hate it, but it was definitely one of those ones where it's kind of like, yeah, there's not a whole lot here, but I'm not doing anything else, so I might as well watch it.
Like the first episode was pretty good,
Right.
and like it dragged me in because I'm like, all right, this has potential. This could be pretty cool.
Hmm.
And then they just fell right into the lolly tropes, and oh my god,
Uh,
I just was just cringing every episode.
well, that's kind of why I want like anime. Like I don't know, I'm getting more away from anime, and I'm going more towards like Korean style manga and stuff like that, and just
Right.
it's more westernized, I'd say, so it's easier to like identify with, even though that sounds weird. But like, I like that style a little bit more the older I get.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I mean, and and I just yeah, anime's getting harder and harder to watch as the years goes on because they're starting to really just
What
fall into
put out whatever we can put out.
right. It's like, all right, let's put out some like, all right, we got a couple Lolly episodes, couple Yuri episodes, and then one really good show, every
Mhm.
season. And it's like, can I have more than one good show,
Well, it
please?
was
Like,
like uh, recently I watched No Game No Life, which is
right.
about a brother and sister who are transported to another world that's everything's controlled by games, and these are like two expert gamers who are really good at gaming essentially. So it's the perfect world for them, but like it's got that same element of lolly junk with
Right.
that you're just like, "Oh, come on, there's no need for that.
Yep.
There's no point. Why
Right.
did you do that?"
Right. And you got one character that's in there just for fan service and
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much nothing else, and you're like,
Well,
well,
now we
it
know.
sucks because the show is really good at times and
Mhm.
really interesting, and then and then sometimes you're just like, well, guess I got to put up with this. All
Well,
right.
well, it's like it's what happens with a lot of them, like that Maho Doka. What
Oh, Maho show. Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Yeah.
that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's like the action's not bad, but the ridiculous over the top lolly moments just I can't stomach them. I just can't. Like
Yeah.
it took
Fortunately,
everything I had in me of willpower to watch that show.
yeah. Fortunately, that one is like toned down in terms of that stuff. It's not well, except for the movie. But anyway, um, but like it has so many other redeeming qualities that it's just like okay, you know, I get where the show's coming from. It's because it's based in that magical girl world, which is inherently like eighth grade girls, you know, fighting monsters and crap.
Mhm.
And it's trying to take that you know that genre and kind of turn it on its head. So I could put up with it and deal with it because it does it in a smart way. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not just there just to sell Blu-rays and you know have you know old guys who have lolly fetishes watch it.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah, and then frankly, like I know one that you and I both like, Fairy Tale,
Yeah.
is getting a little over the top with the fan service stuff. Like seriously, can we just? I get it. Like half the chicks in this show have, you know,
Ridiculous
triple D's,
bodies.
right? I mean, can we stop? Like,
Good. Well, like I've actually stopped watching Fairy Tale. I don't know if I've watched Fairy Tale in a long time because I've been reading
no,
the manga instead, and the manga
no.
is just like I I don't know. I like the manga so much more because it doesn't have all those like extra random stupid stuff added that they always do for anime now.
See, you're smarter than me.
You
I
just
can't.
powered through it.
I just keep watching, and I love the storyline. I like the action. I like the way the magic works. Good lord,
Well,
like
you know what did it for me that to where I got to this point was the 2 years of Naruto filler and the like year and a half of Bleach filler that I powered through because I'm like, oh well, I've read the manga and the parts in the manga are coming up eventually, and those are really awesome, and I don't want to miss that. And then like it took so long for them to come out. At that point, I was just like, I'm dead inside. I don't need any more of this, you know. I just I can't bring myself to care anymore.
yeah, you know, and it's part of me because I'm a completionist. Like once I start a show, I'm pretty much just gonna watch it all,
Mm.
and that's just all there is to it for me. There are a few that I haven't, including stuff like Elfen Lied. But I don't want to talk about that show because it's messed up.
I
But
haven't even watched it. No.
don't
Don't do
bother.
it. Don't go away. Forget I
No,
mentioned it.
no. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go to the grocery store and buy some eye bleach.
Oh,
So, and I don't think you want that.
all right.
But yeah, you know, another show that's out this season, that I've been watching, Akame ga Kill.
I've been watching that
Um,
too. Yeah, that's a solid one.
yeah, it's solid. I do like it, and you know, it keeps the fan service down enough that it
Mhm.
doesn't bother me as much.
Right.
Um, and it's got a good storyline, good action, interesting characters. You know, kind of an interesting world they've set up. So, and it supposedly gets better as it goes, according to the manga readers. I haven't read the manga. I don't read much
I,
manga, so
I haven't read that manga, but in
yeah,
general, like it's from what I've seen of the anime, it's a very solid anime. Like it doesn't follow a lot of the trends where like nothing ever really happens. Like very significant
right,
events happen, and I don't want to get into what they are because if somebody
right,
like wants to watch it, I don't want to spoil it for them. But it's
absolutely,
very interesting things happen, and like fairly early on, even. You
yeah.
know, it's like
I was
yeah,
blown away, man. I was absolutely blown away. I mean, I was watching it and I'm like, this is happening already. Like, what episode are we on? Like episode four?
five, 4 or 5.
Kidding?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty. Well, it's just like that Attack on Titan, where very similar stuff like that happened too.
Yes.
And I think that's a trend with a lot of the better ones lately, is they know people want stuff to happen. They don't want to drag out events occurring for like 100 episodes just to have them happen. Have them happen early, and that affects the characters and their development.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy that we're starting to see that trend in manga that's then carrying over into anime.
Mm.
It's really refreshing to see, and I hope that trend continues.
Well,
And I hope, you know, the success of these shows pushes it towards better and new places.
like speaking of manga, actually, there's been a lot of changes going in recently. Like a couple of long running mangas are starting to end and
Yes.
be done. Like Claymore, I don't know if I told you that, but Claymore ended recently. I
Right.
was like, wow, finally after years, because like first I didn't know about Claymore as a manga, and I was introduced to it by the anime show, which was I thought fantastic until the last couple episodes, which
Right.
is when they diverged from the manga, incidentally. Um, like I
Yes.
thought that was a fantastic show, and that kind of introduced me into the manga, and then I went out of my way to read the manga from that point on, where the show kind of diverged, and that just finally ended.
Hmm.
And also History's Strongest Disciple Kenichi. I love that show. I love that manga. I've gotten so much crap from people for that though, because it's such a weird one. But like the manga was starting to get to the point where it was just dragging on for no reason, and I think that's kind of where the writer felt too. And then he over the last couple arcs made sure to go to a route where he could end it in a satisfactory manner.
Nice. Well, that's
So
good to hear. That's one that you've definitely talked up to me a lot, and so I've been meaning to
I
check that
gotta
one
say,
out.
I don't think you'll like it.
Oh, really?
Like just knowing your personality, I think you'll give it a fair shake, and then you'll be like, no, no, this is where Link and I just completely diverge, and he goes off on his own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You're saying it's not going to take Cowboy Bebop's spot on my top anime of all time? Is that
Oh,
what you're saying?
well, if we're going that route, I don't think it will even make your top 50. I'm just
All
putting
right.
that out there. Well, and then like Hajime no Ippo has gotten to be 1,000 plus chapters, and
Oh my
he
god.
needs to end that one. Oh man, like
Right.
I keep reading it, and I'm like, this is done. This has gotten to the point where he just needs to finish. It's at the point where it's just getting ridiculous, and there's no reason for it to be continuing this long.
Right. Well, yeah. You know, unfortunately, it's the whole you got to keep selling, copies to make money, and as long as it keeps making money, the people that are behind the writer will be like, oh, just keep dragging it out. No, don't worry about it. And it just kind of just goes forever, just like One Piece goes forever.
I One Piece. I watched the anime for a good chunk. I read the manga for a good chunk, and I've stopped. I don't know what it is. I just stopped reading it. I couldn't stay involved. Like the story just didn't. Like it was entertaining, but it didn't grip me in any way. Like it didn't make me go,
Right.
"Oh, I have to find out what happens next." It's like, something's going to happen. Do I really care what it is?
Right. I mean, I remember trying to watch episodes when I was younger, or like when we were in high school, 10, 13 years ago or whatever,
Yeah.
and uh, and I just couldn't get into it. And at this point, it just seems like, well, I'm not going to climb, the Mount Everest of
You would have to
anime.
you would be marathoning that thing forever. There's so
Right.
many episodes. Like that's what I did actually, how I got into it. I was like, I have nothing to do this week. I'm gonna start watching One Piece episodes. And like by the Sunday I'm like, what have I done? I don't care. I don't want to know.
Where did my week
Where
go?
did
Oh
my week
God.
go? Yeah, what was I thinking? I need the sun. I need to get some
Yeah.
sunlight and vitamin C going. It was a bad dark time.
Yeah. We don't talk about
We don't talk about that. Well, and like Fairy Tale, like I think they've rebooted the series or something. I don't know. I keep
Really?
seeing like a new Fairy Tale 2012 or 2014 or whatever, but like
Huh.
I haven't watched any of them. And then like the manga is getting to the point where it's finally starting to wind down too. So
Yeah.
like I just want them to end for the most part because I've got to keep track of so many at this point
Right.
that it's like there's really little point for them to have continued for so long. But
Right. And it's unfortunate, like I was saying. It's pretty much just driven by, sales. That's all
mm,
they care about. And they have these great ideas for shows, and then drag them out for years and years.
Well, I mean, that's not to say there aren't some great new stuff coming out. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of the old stuff is there, but like we've got Akami Got Kill, like you mentioned, Log Horizon also came
right.
out there on season two. I want to, yeah, season two.
Yeah, season two. Yep.
Oh man, like that one, like in some ways I like it more, and in some ways I like it less than Sword Art Online. And
Right.
when I say Sword Art Online, I mean the first half of the first season of Sword Art Online when it was
Right.
really good. Like
Oh,
it's hard to beat those first 5 to 7 episodes of
yes.
Sword Art Online.
They were incredible.
Those were great. Like I remember
Gripping.
watching
Yeah.
I remember watching like the first 4 episodes all in a row because I caught it at about that time, and then like that night I called you up and I'm like, gotta check out the show. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's action packed, but at the same time, like thought provoking and like all of these different parts and elements to it and multiple layers that just make it a good show, regardless of it being an animated show. It's a good show.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm, I was so happy when you recommended it to me and I watched it after I was done. I was just like, "Oh, this is great.
Mhm.
This is amazing." You cannot like at the time I remember thinking, "I cannot get enough of this. There's no way this will ever get old."
And
But
then you got all.
yeah, and then it got old.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one anime I would like to quickly mention, since I think we're running a little low on time here, that is my sleeper for this season is Your Lie in April. It's kind of like a rom-com kind of thing, you know what
Hmm.
I mean? But it's about like this kid who is like a genius piano player but gives it up for various reasons. I don't really want to spoil it. And there's kind of like a love interest with his, childhood friend, but then another girl shows up who's like a genius violin player. And so it's really actually really good, and the music in it is really quite wonderful. So that's my sleeper recommendation for this season.
You and those musical animes. Every
I do
time
like
one
them.
comes out, you're like, oh, sold.
I know. I still haven't, and it's funny. Still haven't seen Nodame Cantible or whatever it is. I can't pronounce it off the
Uh,
top of my head,
I don't
but
even know
that's
what you're
supposed to be
talking
like
about.
it's supposed to be like the best, like musician anime kind of thing. But anyway,
Hmm, cool. So like you mentioned, we're starting to run low on time. So upcoming events, that we're excited to see. Obviously, there's the Idris update we touched on a little bit earlier.
yep,
Excited to see that. Hopefully, it comes out soon. Hopefully, we can start seeing those in game not long after that. But you know, it runs. It takes months.
right,
Um, Australia PAX. Australia
yeah.
PAX is probably the big one.
We should try and live stream that just like we did with Citizen Con.
Yeah, if we
It
can.
I think it's gonna be. It sounds like it's gonna be. They say November 1st at like 8 or 9 p.m. Australia time, which should be around like late afternoon our time on Sunday, I think.
Okay. We'll have to,
Or is
yeah,
that? Or wait, they're a day and a half ahead. I mean on Friday. So we might be able to like get back from work and live stream it, I think.
that would be
But
cool.
I'm not sure. I'm bad with the time zone stuff.
Yeah, well,
So
I'm sure they'll have like a converter so you can figure it out. I mean,
yeah.
really, I'm sure there'll be a ton of really cool and interesting things that they announce, but let's face it, everybody just cares to see the gameplay for the FPS module. Like,
I,
you
I hope that's what's going on, yeah.
know, well, I think like in the last stream he was saying, "Oh yeah, and then we got Australia PAX coming with the first content of the FPS module." You know, I think he offhandedly mentioned that, and I was like, "Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes."
I
So,
hope so. I know I'm really excited about that.
yeah, it oh man, FPS almost has to be as solid as the gameplay for Flight Sim, though. Like the
Yeah.
two of them have to be both solid to make the game complete and whole. So we'll
Yeah,
see how they
you're
handle
absolutely
it.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think they'll do a good job with it. I like the team they picked up for it, and I think it'll be good.
and then other than that, there were a couple of new star systems that have been announced recently on the website. One of them, well, I know one of them was the racing system. I think that was called Baker.
Yeah, the Baker system has the racing, and then I also read that it sounded to me like the way they described it that it's going to be like there's like a freighter hub, so like constellations and freelancers, it would be a good place for them to go. So it sounded to me like it would kind of be like the starting area because it's only one jump away from Terra. Like it'll be like the starting area for
Right.
freighters, like people who want to do shipping and that
That's
kind of
cool.
thing.
So
Yeah,
like pick up cargo here, move it to blah 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 system. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
That's very cool. I
yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to do I kind of want to do it all, and freighting's definitely one of those things you want to try out.
Right.
Well,
I'm gonna do some for sure.
well, just to make money alone, it's worth doing, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then
But it's
there's
fun. I actually have fun doing that kind of stuff.
yeah. Well, and also the other system I think that was mentioned recently was the Vanguard system, which sounds like it's kind of a supply mining system for the Vanduul, where
Oh.
they'll have a Vanduul armada or whatever you want to call it show up, and then they
Okay.
literally harvest from the planet, and then everything they harvest they bring back up in the ships and then they fly out. So I wonder if there's going to be like some missions centered around go to the Vanguard system, hide there, or rescue somebody, that type of thing.
Hmm. That could be a lot of fun. That sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, hopefully, like with the persistent universe, once that comes out, there'll be a lot of that where, oh, the Vandal will randomly harvest or raid this sector of space, and that
Right.
players have to deal with that as it comes up.
Nice. Well, that sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to everything.
Yeah,
Awesome.
like you mentioned something related to
That-
Star Citizen. Let me
yes.
let me be excited about that.
Yes. You mentioned something about Star Citizen. Am I happy about it?
The
Yes.
excitement level, it's like a dog, and it's like, oh, you want bacon? Bacon? Star Citizen?
Bacon.
Star Citizen?
Star Citizen.
What? Star Citizen? Let me.
That. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
A simple man with simple needs and simple
right.
desires.
Just
Yeah.
keep holding that stuff over my head, Chris Roberts, and I'll keep jumping at it.
Here, boy, you want an Idris? You want an Idris? Here you go. Oh man.
uh,
Well,
well,
I think
I think that's a
that's
good place. Yeah,
yeah,
a good place to
that's
leave
every
off.
topic we've wanted to discuss for sure. Well,
Yeah.
thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the flight deck.
Peace.